This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 157, entitled Childlike versus Childish, Part 3, Communication and Presence. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack, and I'm a certified faith-based life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want you to know that no matter your season or your circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life, and I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my series on being childlike versus childish. I'm so grateful you've joined me again for part 3 of our journey together. Now, before I get started, I wanted to remind you about my conversation project. Essentially, I'm seeking to have meaningful conversations with 25 midlife women of faith. These personal conversations will focus on understanding your unique experiences, challenges, and insights in this season of life, including how you navigate conflict in your life. If you're interested in learning more or participating, there is a link in the show notes, or you can email me at jill@seasons-coaching.com with the subject line Conversation Project. Now on to this week's episode. Over the last 2 weeks, we've explored how to nurture childlike imagination and wonder, and how to reclaim purposeful play and adaptability into our midlife years. Today, we're diving into something that touches all of our relationships and daily experiences: communication and presence. These two qualities can transform not only how we connect with each other, but how we experience our own lives. So find that comfortable spot, take a deep breath, and let's explore together how the honesty of children and their natural ability to be fully present might be exactly what we need in this season of life. Negative emotions can be uncomfortable, and most of us didn't know what to do with them, whether we were the one experiencing them or watching others experiencing them. How many of us grew up in families where true feelings were hidden away, where we learned to smile and say, "I'm fine," even when our hearts were breaking? I know that I did. In my family, we didn't really talk about our emotions. I learned early to push down what I was really feeling, to be the easy child, the one who didn't cause problems. I didn't want to disappoint other people. Now, I'm not blaming my parents. They were incredible, amazing people, and I'm so blessed that they were my parents. I just think that it was very common at that time. They weren't taught how to either. It's taken me decades, and I'm still working on it, to unlearn those patterns and discover the freedom of honest communication. Perhaps you recognize this in your own story. Maybe you were taught explicitly or implicitly that certain emotions were unacceptable, such as anger should be swallowed, or that sadness should be hidden, or fear was something to overcome alone. Or maybe you grow up with the opposite extreme, where emotions erupted uncontrolled, where adults in your life use their feelings as weapons or excuses for hurtful behavior. Neither extreme gives us what we truly need, which is the ability to be honestly childlike in naming our emotions while being maturely responsible in how we express them. There is such beauty in childlike honesty, in saying what we mean and meaning what we say. But there's equal importance in expressing these feelings with maturity and grace. So let's explore together what this balance might look like in our daily lives. First, we can learn to name our emotions without being controlled by them. Children naturally do this, don't they? I'm mad, or I'm scared, or I'm so excited I can't sit still. They identify what they're feeling without shame. Yet as adults, we often struggle to even recognize our emotions, let alone name them. I found it helpful to develop a richer emotional vocabulary. Instead of just upset, do I feel frustrated or disappointed or hurt or anxious? Getting specific helps me respond appropriately to what I'm actually feeling rather than reacting to a vague emotional cloud. Second, there's remarkable freedom that comes when we stop blaming others for our feelings. This is where we move from childish to childlike. A child might say, "You made me so mad," but an emotionally mature adult could say, "I feel angry when this happens." Notice the difference. One places responsibility on the other person. The other owns the emotion while still communicating honestly about the situation or the trigger. This small shift can transform our relationships because it moves us from accusation to connection. Maybe you find yourself having a conversation with your husband and he says something that you feel hurt by. And your childish impulse might be to withdraw and give him the silent treatment. But what if you could instead take a breath and say something like, "When you said that, I felt ignored, and that really hurt." This can open up a completely different conversation than if you said, "You always ignore me." Third, we can learn to tell the whole truth with love. Children often blurt out whatever they're thinking without considering the impact. As adults, we sometimes swing the total opposite direction, saying nothing in order to avoid conflict or hurt feelings. Childlike communication finds somewhere in the middle, that middle way, speaking the truth, but doing so with care for the other person, seeing them as a person, another human being who's trying to figure this life out just like we are. It's not about softening the truth until it disappears. It's about delivering it in a way that we can actually be heard and received. This kind of honest, responsible communication requires something else we can learn from children: being fully present in the moment. My granddaughters can spend an hour just swinging on their swing set in their backyard, talking and singing as they go. An hour. When was the last time any of us stopped long enough to truly see the beauty right in front of us? In our busy midlife years with responsibilities pulling us in so many different directions, our minds are often anywhere but here. We're physically making dinner while mentally making tomorrow's to-do list, or we're rehashing yesterday's argument. We're sitting with a friend, but we're checking our phones every few minutes, or we're lying in bed, but we're scrolling through social media instead of truly resting. Children are naturally mindful, aren't they? They're fully present in whatever they're doing. They go all in, and they don't worry about yesterday or tomorrow. They're completely absorbed in the now. Now, I've been learning, and it is very much a learning process, to reclaim this childlike quality of presence, to be where my feet are. As we grow in emotional maturity, there are several gifts that come from reclaiming this childlike presence. First, we learn to quiet that constant worry about tomorrow. This doesn't mean we don't plan or prepare. We absolutely should and can. But there's a difference between thoughtful preparation and anxious fixation on what might go wrong. In the NIV translation of the Bible, Matthew chapter 6, verse 34 reminds us, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." There's such wisdom in these words. Children naturally understand this. They don't spend today worrying about next week. They trust that their needs will be met. Second, we find joy in simple blessings we once overlooked. When we're fully present, we notice the changing colors of leaves on our daily walk. We savor the flavors of our favorite food. We feel the warmth of a loved one's hand in ours. I've heard these referred to as thin places. I love that phrase. These are moments when heaven seems especially close to earth. Children live in thin places all the time because they're paying attention. They notice that butterfly, the interesting cloud shape, the way sunlight creates rainbows through a glass of water. Third, we create space for God to speak in the stillness. When our minds are constantly racing, filled with noise and distraction, it's hard to hear the still small voice of God. Presence creates room for divine whispers. In Psalms 46, verse 10, it tells us, "Be still and know that I am God." There's something powerful about that connection between stillness and knowing God. Children naturally understand this too. They don't need to fill every moment with noise or activity. But how do we actually cultivate this presence in our busy, distracted lives? Let me share some ideas. First, create small rituals of presence in your daily routine. That can look like beginning your day with 5 deep breaths before checking your phone. Taking a moment to really taste and enjoy your first sip of your favorite drink. Feel the water on your skin during your shower instead of mentally planning your day. Or notice 3 beautiful things on your commute. Second, practice sacred pauses throughout your day. Between tasks, take 3 conscious breaths. Before entering your home after work, sit in your car for a moment to transition mindfully. When feeling overwhelmed, place your hand on your heart and remember who you want to be in this moment. Number 3, experiment with technology boundaries. That can look like designating certain times or spaces as phone-free, or turning off notifications, or trying a sunset to sunrise break from screens. Number 4, use physical reminders of presence. Wear a special bracelet that reminds you to come back to now when you notice it. Place small objects around your home or workplace that can call you back to presence when you see them. Use everyday transitions like walking through doorways or stopping at red lights as reminders to return to the present moment. Now, I want to acknowledge that this isn't easy for many of us. Our minds naturally wander, and many of us have been programmed to value productivity over presence. So be gentle with yourself as you practice. When you notice you've drifted away from the present moment, simply come back without judgment, just like you gently redirect a child who's wandered off. What's beautiful about developing both honest communication and present moment awareness is how powerfully they support each other. When we're fully present with someone, we actually hear what they're saying rather than preparing our response. We notice their facial expressions and their body language. We're able to respond to what actually is happening rather than to our assumptions or past experiences. When we communicate from a place of presence, our words carry a different quality. They're more thoughtful, they're more authentic, more connected to what matters most to us rather than to our reactive emotions. I experienced this recently during a difficult conversation with my husband. In the past, he might have been so caught up in defending his position that he would not have really heard me. But this time, I noticed that he made a conscious choice to be fully present, to listen, not just to hear my words, but to what was underneath them, what was beneath the words I was sharing. Instead of planning his defense or making excuses, he simply stayed with me in that moment. And you know what happened? I felt truly seen and heard. This created safety for me to be honest about I was really feeling, which then allowed him to respond with his perspective, spoken with love. That conversation transformed something in our relationship, not because we solved every issue, but because we were both fully there, speaking honestly and listening to each other with love. I love him so much for changing the music to this pattern dance in this conversation and inviting me to practice a new step. That's the beautiful alchemy that happens when childlike honesty meets mature responsibility, when childlike presence meets adult wisdom. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want to invite you into a simple practice for the week ahead. Choose one relationship in your life where you'd like to bring more honest communication and present moment awareness. It might be with your spouse, a child, a friend, or even with yourself. Set an intention to practice both qualities in that relationship, to share your perspective with kindness, and to be fully present when you're together. Notice what shifts, both in the relationship and in your own experience. Remember, these childlike qualities weren't meant to be outgrown, but rather integrated into our adult wisdom. The journey from childish to childlike isn't about becoming something new. It's about remembering what was always meant to be ours. Next week, we'll conclude our series by exploring fresh starts and grace. Until then, may you speak your perspective with love and find joy in the present moment. Thank you for sharing this journey with me, and I'd love to hear your experiences with honest communication and presence. Drop me a comment or send me a message. Until next time, this is Jill reminding you that it's never too late to remember and reclaim the childlike qualities that make life rich and relationships deep. Thank you for tuning in to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends and family. If you want to learn more about me or how to work with me, just visit my website, www.seasons-coaching.com, and have a joyful week.